Welcome to Fantastic Living. I'm your host, Thuy Phan. Today we are going to have a barbecue extravaganza, and by that I mean we're going to have a family party and barbecue for my niece, and I'm going to show you how to make my mom's specialty dish, which is LUI, or it's pork skewers. And you'll see them at night markets, and the scent of the grilled meat is amazing, but you can make it at home, super flavorful and so good, and you can eat it with vermicelli straight off the skewers. The possibilities are endless, and so I'm going to show you how to do that, and then we'll also do some roasted vegetable skewers that we can put on the grill together too. So we got a lot of great things that are going to happen, and it's going to be a great time together with everyone. So for this dish, we're going to need some pork. You can use the shoulder or the pork butt. Those are the best parts because it has a little bit of pork and it has a little bit of fat in there. So you want the fat so that it's not completely dry. Find something that has a little bit of fat in it. It will make it a lot better. So you'll need a little bit of oyster sauce, fish sauce, condensed milk. That's kind of a little bit of the secret ingredient. Instead of using sugar, she uses condensed milk, and then honey, salt and pepper, and then some minced garlic. So right here I have about a pound of pork, and a trick that you can use is you can pop it in the freezer for about 30 minutes to an hour to make it a little bit harder, so that when you slice it, it's a little bit easier. So you want to cut this not too thick, but also not too thin either. I would say maybe about 1/4 inch thick, so they look like this. That's what you're looking for. And if you are lucky enough to have a butcher that can do this for you, it'll save a lot of time, but if not, perfectly doable here. And this is one of my favorite meals as a child, or even as an adult too. It's just so flavorful, and I think it's a nice alternative to like hamburgers and hot dogs if you're going to be grilling. You know, sometimes I think Vietnamese dishes sometimes can be a little bit too much for other people who aren't used to some of the flavors, but this is a universal dish that I think everyone who eats it loves it. It's so good. So now all our meat is sliced, and I'm going to transfer it to a bowl. So next what we're going to do is mince some garlic. I'm using the same cutting board because it all goes into the same marinade. And sometimes we do like to have just garlic oil, make a big batch and just leave it for whenever you have marinades. We're not going to do that today. We're just going to do the fresh garlic. And if you have shallots, you can add a little bit of shallots in there too. And a little trick that my mom does with this is, because when you're marinating a big batch, you don't know how it's going to taste until you're grilling it. So she will fry up or cook up one piece so she can taste where it's at in case it needs to be adjusted. Some people like it a little bit saltier or sweeter, so you can always do that to test it to make sure your batch is good. And at the very end, you can always put some oyster sauce on it before you put on the grill so that you can ensure that it's a lot of flavor. So, garlic. Just going to add it straight into this bowl. So we have our garlic in there, and what we're going to add next is all the other seasonings, and we're going to make it delicious. Some black pepper. Sprinkles of salt. And we add about half a teaspoon of 5-spice powder. 5-spice powder just goes so amazingly well with pork and chicken, especially if you're going to grill it. It's just subtle. I mean, it is a very strong spice, but on meat, if you use it in small quantities, it just smells so delicious. And we add about a teaspoon of honey. Next, we're going to add some condensed milk. Right about a tablespoon. Condensed milk, you wouldn't think to add it, but instead of using sugar, this really makes it a nice, subtle sweetness. Gives it a nice caramelization as well. We're going to add about a tablespoon and a half of fish sauce. And then oyster sauce. Use about a tablespoon and a half to 2. That tablespoon should be good. And now we marinate it and mix it up all really well together. You can also add a little bit of mushroom seasoning, a little bit of chicken powder if you don't have that for this. That's what it is. Smell it. Smell the garlic and the pepper and the 5 spice. And that's it. Now, it's best to let this marinate overnight, or at least 2 to 4 hours if you don't have that time, but give it some time to get really marinated and happy in there, and then we'll start skewering them, and then it'll be ready for the grill. So I have here some of the meat that I have already marinated overnight, so it's ready to be skewered. And here's a little trick for when you are going to skewer anything. You want to make sure that you soak it in water for at least half an hour. The longer the better, to make sure that it doesn't burn when you have it on the grill, obviously. So I like to use a water bottle because usually it's tall enough, but if it sticks out, you can just flip it over at some point so that it all gets hydrated and wet, so we don't have any burnt wooden skewers when we are grilling this. So I have here marinating gloves, and if you're right-handed, your meat you touch with your right hand and your skewer with your left. And basically you're going to start at the bottom of the piece of meat, and then you're going to just make incisions kind of, or poke holes and go like that, and pull it down. Keep doing it. This is probably the most tedious part, but you have a whole family who's coming over to eat. You should put them to work, and it goes by a lot faster if everybody kind of pitches in a hand versus one person doing all of it. And also, if you're wearing gloves, just make sure you don't poke your fingers through either. It can be a little unwieldy, but nobody wants pork hands. So. And so if you have kind of little hanging bits, you can just pull them up and skewer them through too. And just press it out. And don't be afraid of the parts with a lot of fat on it. That's actually the best part, because it's going to render and burn off and keep the meat really juicy. Okay, and just spread it out like that. And you have your meat skewer stick. I'll do one more. Trust me, this is going to taste so good. Oh. Trust me, this is going to taste so good once it's grilling on your gas or charcoal grill. It's going to have some nice burnt pieces, and it's going to be so juicy and flavorful. Okay, now our meat skewers are all skewered and they're ready to go on the grill. So look how delicious they look, just like that. Even though they're still raw, it just looks really nice, right? So this is going to be a great addition to whatever barbecue or potluck you're going to be going to. Instead of hot dogs or hamburgers, just a little different meal. But we're going to save this for when everyone comes over and brother-in-law lights up the grill, and we're going to make him do the grilling, and it's going to be awesome.